All right, YouTube, Repo Man 64 out here in the secret broadcast cave. I am still looking at tomorrow or the next day, depending if God is using a solar calendar or a stellar calendar. So we're looking at the 15th, 16th. I think this is why no man can know the day or the hours because we just really don't know which calendar he will use. We see in Enoch where he says it's a 364-day calendar, and that's a stellar calendar, a star at a particular point and a fulcrum point on Earth. As it spins to that star, it still goes around the sun, but we have to wait 4 minutes each day for solar noon. Otherwise, we'd have noon at midnight within 12 months. So let me get into the pictures here real quick and show you why I'm still looking at August 15, 16. Remember, and I'll show you this in a moment, but remember that when we see these 40-day events, what they're going through during those 40 days is a type of tribulation before the event culminates to something else. When they sent the spies into Canaan, they went in there, or into the promised land, they went in there for 40 days. They were 10 of them were scared. 10 of them said, there's no way we can win. We're like grasshoppers to these people. Jesus went out into the wilderness, and while he was out there, he fasted for 40 days and then was tempted of the devil. This is, I don't know about you, but 40 days? That's talk about paying the penalty for sin. I mean, that's huge. That's a lot of days to do. And so after that, we see him return. He was hungry. They fed him. And then 3 days later, he was at the wedding in Cana where he turned water to wine. And then we have Moses going up on the mountain. This is a picture of a wedding. He's in a veil for 7 days. And then he comes out of the cloud and he's given the law by God. Sorry, I have a bit of a cold. So let me get into the pictures and I'll show you some symmetry. And like I said so many times, pattern is prophecy. Prophecy is pattern. All right. We're going to start here. Okay. I've said this many times. This is not the year 2025. It is the Jubilee year of 2024. But because of this 0 year that they inadvertently put in, because of this, everything seems to be a year off. Jesus went to the cross on March 30, 30 AD. That's when he went. But from our perspective, because of the 0 year, it looks like 31. The same thing. It's 2024. It looks like it's 2025 to us, but because of that 0 year. And I'm going to show you that here in a moment. He was born on September 30th. He went to the cross exactly to the very day, 30 years, 33 and a half years after he was born. Exactly. So when I put this into the computer and I say, what's 33 and a half years from September 30th, 3 BC? And it said it is March 30th, 30 AD. It is inadvertently counting the 0 year. There's only one way to count the 0 year, and that is BC and AD share the same year. So in a 10-year period, it would look like 9 years because they have to share the 0 year. Otherwise, you add a 0 year. And if you count it that way, yes, Jesus was born in 4 BC instead of 3 BC, or Jesus went to the cross in 31 AD instead of 30 AD. So there's always that 1 year discrepancy. Jesus was here for 33 and a half years. Now, we have this thought process that, how do I put this? Exactly 2,000 years after the temple was complete, exactly 2,000 years, we arrive at 2025. But because of the 0 year, we have to attribute the 26 to 2025. So we can say that Jesus was baptized in a Jubilee year. I always wonder, I was like, why is that 1 year off? That's what I realize is that because of the 0 year, it appears to be 1 year off. It's 2025, 2000 years. Sorry, 25 AD, 2000 years, 2025. Wherever you put that 1 year, wherever you place it, mathematically, it should work. Mathematically, there should be a huge event or a rapture tomorrow or the 16th. Mathematically. I don't know exactly when. I've tried to sit down and figure out the difference between the stellar year and the solar year. And I come up with March 16th minus 10 hours or March 15th plus 10 hours. And I discovered that in the center, there's about 6 hours difference between those two. So I really don't know. I really don't know exactly what day or hour. Now, we learned, I said, I finally figured it out, 14 AD to 29 AD. This is when, in the 15th year reign of Tiberius Caesar, Pontius Pilate being governor of Judea, and Herod being tetrarch of Galilee, and his brother Philip, tetrarch of Iturea, and of the region of Tachonitis. You're going to keep doing this to me, and Lysanias, and tetrarch. Oh my goodness, stop. I'm stopping right there. So many words that I have an easier time of reading them because I do speak Spanish, and a lot of these Caiaphas, a lot of these would translate into Spanish, which is obviously similar to Latin. So anyway, but we see that in the year 29 that that John the Baptist was shut up in prison. A lot will attribute the year 29 as the year Jesus was baptized, but he was not. He was baptized in 26. John the Baptist became famous or desired of people to baptize them because they saw the Holy Spirit set down in the form of a dove on Jesus and the voice from heaven saying, "This is my son in whom I'm well pleased. Listen to him." And so that's when it all started. It all started when Jesus was baptized, and he was baptized on August the 15th or 16th. Again, we don't know the exact day, but he was baptized on Elul 1. 40 days later, when he completed his 40-day fast, on the Day of Atonement, on the day of the Revelation 12 sign, exactly 40 days later, is when he began his ministry. He began calling his apostles at that moment. We read that in the Bible. They have attributed, again, 29 AD as to when Jesus was baptized, but it is not. Jesus was baptized in 26 AD because that's how John the Baptist became famous. And in 29 AD is when John the Baptist was shut up in prison. John was thrown in prison in 29 AD. The entire passage, if you read the entire passage, it leads up to that fact. Jesus was baptized 3 years earlier in 26 AD. Basically, what you're reading, sorry, this cold I have, broadcast cave bug. Basically, what you're reading here about, we know it's 1480 to 29 AD, but if you'll read this, you'll see that John the Baptist was shut up in prison in that year. He could not have baptized Jesus in that year. He was told by God from the wilderness, go say something or go do something. And everyone assumed that what he was told to go do was to baptize Jesus, but that's not what he was told to do. He was told to go tell Herod that him cheating with his brother's wife was a bad thing, with his brother Philip's wife. That's a bad thing. That's why he got into trouble. That's what God told him to do. God did not tell him to go baptize Jesus. That had happened 3 years earlier, which gave him notoriety. The entire passage leads up to, I said John was thrown into prison 2980. The entire passage leads up to that fact. Jesus was baptized 3 years earlier in 26 AD. I said it's not in order. You read where God says, go tell him something. You'll read where it says he was shut up in prison. And then you read where it says Jesus was baptized. And people lump that together. And you have to, when you read the Bible, you have to be able to separate the segments and rearrange the segments. It's much like Seal 6. When you read Seal 6, You assume that the whole world's coming unglued because you see all these horsemen riding, but then you read this little part that says, hold back the four winds, hold back, don't hurt any trees, don't hurt any grass, don't hurt anything, just hold back. The Holy Spirit is still restraining during the seals. Yes, the Holy Spirit, we leave with our portion of the Holy Spirit, but the Holy Spirit stays here because there's a great multitude that need to be gathered by, and I've seen this on Facebook. I'm like, we're not being gathered by the angels, right? Your angels aren't coming here to gather you. They do that to the tribulation saints. We're being raptured out of imminent danger. There is only one rapture, pre-tribulation, pre-seals, pre-everything. One moment we're here, the next moment we're in heaven. People are like, don't look back. You wouldn't be able to anyway. It's a blink of an eye. You're here, you're in heaven. It's that fast. It's not, I saw a tunnel and I was flying through it. No, that's the tribulation saint. They see tunnels. They fly through it. They ascend slowly. They don't get raptured. They are gathered by the angels as they die, and they're taken to heaven. Absent from the body is present with the Lord. And so get his head, I made the comment, he doesn't get his head cut off, then leave prison to baptize Jesus. He became popular because he baptized Jesus 3 years earlier. He was killed a few months prior to the cross in 30 AD, which I believe was 6 months. Remember, he was 6 months older than Jesus was. And so I've been content with this explanation for a very long time until somebody sent me a comment and it just blew me away. It absolutely proves that Jesus went to the cross in 30 AD, or what we would call 31. Okay? Absolutely proves it. This is what I was talking about. If you don't share BC and AD in this square right here, you'll never have the correct year. We'll always be 1 year off down here. So it goes from 2 BC to 1 BC and 1 AD at the same time. That's the same thing. There are what appears to be 9 years, but what we're counting is 10 because this one block counts as 2 years. That's why this is the year 2024. That's why this is the Jubilee year. No, it's not next year. No, there's no mathematical mistake. When you count the Jubilees, exactly 49 Jubilee cycles from creation, 123 of them, you land perfectly, squarely on 2024, which this is 2024, not 2025. All right. I did this as a little bit of an explanation. I don't know if you can understand this, but what we call 31 AD, what the world calls 31 AD is 30 AD actually, because of that 0 year we have to account for. So the same thing, 2025 AD is 2024. Mathematically, it's sound. It's perfect. That's what I search for in the Bible. That's my piece of the puzzle. I go into the Bible. I don't care about the result. I'm not trying to make Jesus go to the cross in 30 AD or 31 AD. I'm simply trying to understand why it appears as though there are discrepancies. And I feel it my duty as a type of person that looks at calendars and tries to understand. Like I said, I've said this 100 times. I've built so many calendars and I threw them in the garbage. I started a YouTube channel when I finally figured it out. And this is the accurate calendar. And every single time somebody throws me something new and I go in here and research it, like they threw me that 29 AD some time ago and I studied it and studied. And I'm like, it says 29 AD. How do I get around this? What do I do? And then I realized 29 AD is when he lost his head. 29 AD is not when he baptized Jesus. He did that 3 years earlier. All right. I've showed you that. That's the 84 hours that Jesus was in the tomb. He was in there for 3.5 days. The same thing we see with the witnesses. It says that they will lie in the streets for 3.5 days. 3.5 days is 84 hours. Anything less than 4 days, it's still called 3 days. So when you read it in the Bible, it says 3 days. It's because it's not 4 days yet. So that's why it can, and the Bible's written in a fashion to where if you want the truth and you search for the truth, you will find the truth. If you pray for discernment and try to understand, Lord, how is it 3 days? Why did the witness lie in the grave for 3.5 days? I'm sorry, lie in the street for 3.5 days. Why does Jonas in the belly of the whale for 3 days and 3 nights? Where does this 84 hours come in? But we see that Israel, at the time of the end of the 7 year tribulation, will be 84. They'll be 84 years old. So the 84 keeps popping up, and I have to, pattern is prophecy. I have to go in and say, how does this make sense? I have to make it make sense. We know about this, the 77 generations from Adam to Jesus, from Jesus to the fig tree generation of 1948, 77 generations, and from the fig tree generation to today is 77 years, actually, instead of generation, 77 years. And that's where we're at right now. Israel is 77 until they turn 78. That's how you wind up going over the amount, but it's still legal. It's still, I am 60, but I really am not. I turned 60 last year. I will turn 61 this year, but I will tell you, if you ask me how old I am, 60. I won't go, I'm 60 and 8 months and 20 days and I won't do that. But I'm not 60. I haven't been 60 for 8 months. 8 months ago is when I turned 60. I'm more 61 now than I was, but I can't tell you I'm 61 until my birthday. So that's how you can say it's 3.5 days, 84 hours, because it's not 4 days. That's an old timeline. I've showed this many times, and I studied it, and I worked on this with Sister Sandy quite a while, trying to figure out this. The beginning of this to the end of this, or the very beginning of this, is 49 years. It is the 50th year, but it begins here. It began, let me zoom in. It began on March 17th in what we call 2025, okay? And that's legitimate. I'll show you why here in a moment. But I had to understand Leviticus 25:21. Common sense. The day of an event, the day of a race, you're out there, the race is getting set up, and they blow a huge horn. They call all of the racers up to the track to get ready to race. And then they blow another horn for the race to start. The horn is blown here on September the 24th of 2024. That's when the horn was blown, telling everybody the Jubilee is about to begin. As a matter of fact, the Jubilee begins 6 months later, or 5 months and 20 days later. It is a 7-year warning from the Revelation 12 sign. It is a 5 month and 20-day warning from the Revelation 12 sign, or the Day of Atonement, 5 months and 20 days. So 7 years, 5 months, and 20 days. I don't know if that means anything to Revelation Watchman 777. He's always doing amazing things with numbers. I was just listening to his video today. Absolutely love what he does and what he finds. I can't even hold a candle to what he does with that stuff. I'll just do calendars. So calling all racers here 5 months and 20 days early to the fact that the Jubilee year is going to begin on March 17th, and it does. Just in case somebody were to argue that point, you can go into Leviticus 25:21. I've read it 100 times, and I cannot see it any other way. You can't blow this trumpet that it's the beginning of a Jubilee year in the middle of a Jubilee year. So this, what's about to happen down here, 8th month, and is that September 24th? What's about to happen here is people are wanting to blow the trumpet for the Jubilee year. Why would you do that 6 months and 10 days after it already began? No, you would blow it prior, get everybody, all the racers onto the track, and then you would start the race. They did. They blew this trumpet stating, hey, and just so you know, it's not the Feast of Trumpets. It moved 10 days further out. Again, I've read this over and over again. I cannot place the beginning of the Jubilee year over here on September the 24th. The 8th year from the Revelation 12 sign, the Day of Atonement. Again, my timeline is static. It doesn't budge. It doesn't care about the moon. It can't. I have done every mathematical equation I could find, and they still come into me. People still find stuff and say, what about this? What about this? And then I go in and study it. And as usual, it falls perfectly on the timeline. It's not a prideful thing. I promise you, I'm not prideful about that whatsoever. I spent 30 years trying to determine when the head of the year was. And when I found it, and I started digging out every date and every time span and all of the things I could figure out of the Bible, all the dates and everything, and put it into a 1 year timeline where every single, I can tell you the Sabbaths. I can tell you the Sabbaths every single year. They never change. They're always on the same day. They never move on a 364-day calendar. It's a stellar calendar. So that being said, what we're about to see on September the 24th is not a rapture scenario in my book. However, I am not going to say, thus saith the Lord. I'm not that insane. I'm insane, but not that insane. I will look forward to the rapture any day, and I will hope that everybody's right and that I'm wrong, because all I want is to try to figure it out and go to heaven. And all I want is to present this information to you, because some of you are really, really good with numbers, and some of you find stuff and send me questions, which I'm about to get to a question that was sent to me. And it just proves that Jesus went to the cross in 30 AD or 31, depending on whether or not you count that 0 year. All right, so we are right here, exactly where September 24th is here. We are right here. We are about to come up on this date. I don't need that one. This one, I want to show you this real quick. I think that between God's Land Down Under, I don't know who discovered it and who worked on it, but I have talked to both of them extensively about this. When I heard it on, I don't recall who it was, God's Land Down Under or David the Watchman, but both of them have discussed this Apophis. Now, I'm sitting here telling you my timeline's right. All the others are wrong. Not really saying it like that, but you know what I'm saying. I believe this one's correct, and I think all the others are wrong. That is a fact. That's what I think. I don't think that that I should ever say, if you don't believe in mine, then you can't see what I see. Therefore, and the Holy Spirit revealed this to me and not to you. Therefore, you don't say things like that. You never say things like that. I don't get wheat and tares grow up together. I don't get to judge you based on your math. Now, that being said, what have I repeated over and over and over again? At the end of the day, God is going to reveal his correct timeline based on something. Amos 3:7 promises he's going to tell us. Did he tell us years ago when we figured out that Apophis is going to make a very close approach to Earth on April 13th, 2029? Now, I heard this prior. As a matter of fact, I heard this from David and God's Land Down Under, Brett. And I said, it's landing 14 days after the cross. I can't make that work. What does 14 days after the cross mean? Why would I even pay attention to that? And I didn't for a while, because I'm like 14 days until I decided that I had had enough of listening to people about the Jubilee. Is the Jubilee 50 years? Is it 49 years? Well, mathematically, it's 49 years. That's how long a Jubilee is. But then you hear Jesus saying, and after 2 days, and in the third day, meaning 2,000 years will pass. Once we get into the third year, that's when the rapture will occur. So if Jesus went to the cross, does it qualify 32 AD? No, 32 AD doesn't qualify, because if Jesus went to the cross in 32 AD, 2 days later is 2032. After 2 days, meaning you have to wait an entire year for the rapture to occur, because it's in the third year. Whatever date the rapture is, it would have to occur the following year. You see what I'm saying? After 2 days and then the third day means the rapture, how you call it? The cross had to happen in 30 or 31 to qualify for after 2 days and in the third year. So that in and of itself states that Jesus went to the cross. And that, now, I've made this statement before. Jesus was neither born in a Jubilee year, nor did he go to the cross in a Jubilee year. But I just discovered something. Somebody was talking about the temple. The temple, when it was finished, that's what somebody had sent to me. And I realized it dawns on me. We say, or I say, that Jesus, I'm sorry, yeah, Jesus was baptized in 26 AD. After 40 days, on September the 24th, when he was about 30 years old, this is actually 5 days before his birthday. His birthday is on September the 30th, the day of Tabernacles. He came to tabernacle with us. If you realize that this is not 26 AD, this is actually 25 AD when he was baptized, that's the year that it all started, in 25 AD. In 25 AD, I didn't even put it on here. I didn't even put it on here because I didn't realize this until this person sent me this proof of 26 AD when Jesus began his ministry, and August the 15th when he was baptized. 25 AD is 2,000 years from when and it was a Jubilee year. That's fine. It was a Jubilee year. But it's 2,000, and like I said, I don't even have it on here. It's exactly 2,000 years later to 2025. And the end of all this is 2032, 7 years later. And 2032, it could only work if after 2 days and in the third day, if Jesus went to the cross in 30 or 31. That's why people are doing this simple math of it had to be 32 AD, 2,000 years later. How about it had to be 25 AD when he was baptized, and 2,000 years later is the rapture on 2025? That works, right? Mathematically, that's simple. So David the Watchman finds this. This is Apophis right here, April 13, 2029. Is this the Amos 3:7 event? 5:7. 3:7? 5:7. Ugh. Amos 3:7. Amos 5:7. I don't recall. I've confused myself. But look that up. So he says, what he says is, and he does this math. This is his math. I put it on here because I loved it. April 13th, 2029, you add 1,260 days and you come right here absolutely perfectly to the Day of Atonement in 2032. Perfect, right? That is the end of the tribulation. 30 days after that, or 1,290 days from Apophis, you land here on October the 24th. On October the 24th is the day Noah went into the ark. Perfect. This type of stuff can't happen unless you have a static timeline, one, and two, if the timeline is accurate. 45 days after that, on Hanukkah, it appears as though it takes about 75 days from the end of the tribulation for them to go into the promised land. The promised land will happen on Hanukkah. Maybe it takes them a week to walk in because December the 8th to December the 15th is Hanukkah. Then I'm sitting there thinking, I went backwards 1,260 days. Sure, David the Watchman did this. This is his stuff. From this point right here to this point right here is David the Watchman. And Brett from God's Land Down Under, October the 31st, 2025. That is when the tribulation begins. That's when the trumpets begin, I believe. I believe the seals are opened within this period of time here. But I believe that this is when trumpets begin. We know that trumpets cannot begin until the seventh seal is open. The seventh seal reveals the trumpets. Now, then I decide, and that's why this is written by hand, I wonder what happens if I go back 30 days. I went back 30 days from another 30 days from Apophis, 1,290 days, and I land on September 30th. Remember, I said that's Jesus' birthday. That is Tabernacles. And I'm like, okay, that can't happen again. We're dealing with a center point of Apophis, going forward, landing on very key dates, going backwards, landing on very key dates. How does this happen? So I said, oh, let me go another 45 days. What happens? I go another 45 days and it lands on August the 15th, exclusive, but it lands on August the 15th, August the 16th, because I don't know if it's the 15th or the 16th. It lands on the day Jesus is baptized. I'm sorry. Yes, it lands on the day Jesus is baptized, but then he goes into this tribulation type scenario where he is fasting for 40 days and tempted of the devil. This can't happen. This mathematically, I don't do odds. I don't know who does odds, but what are the odds that I can go forward from Apophis and backward from Apophis? And of course, like I said in the beginning, I never even considered April 13th. I just put this on here because David the Watchman and Godson Down Under did this math from right here. I was like, I don't understand. He went to the cross on March 30th. April the 13th is 14 days later. What could that possibly mean? And then I realized Adam is created on September the 16th. This is the sixth day. This is the beginning of the Jubilee from the creation of man. 7 days later is the Day of Atonement. Jesus is born over here on September 30th, 3 BC, 4 BC, depends on how we view it from this side of the map. Remember, BC and AD are a construct invented by a Catholic monk in 525 AD. This concept never existed before. This is how everybody continues to get messed up as to what year it is. So, that being said, September 30th, it is exactly 4,000 years and 14 days from Adam's creation to Jesus coming to fix everything. 4,000 years and 14 days. And if you subtract 7 days from September 30th, you land on the Revelation 12 sign. You land on the Day of Atonement. It is 7 days before and 7 days after we land on atonement. Now, August the 15th, 16th is still a very high watch day for me. If it's not the rapture, then some huge event I think will take place to rally the bride, as it were. All right, I want to come back to this timeline after a couple of things here. All right. Somebody sent me this. This is something somebody had sent me, which made me question. And I told them I'm going to forward this to my little team, and we're going to take this apart and try to understand what we're looking at. And that's what we did. We worked on it. And it says in Revelation 20-1, and I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. When does that happen? That happens at the end of the 7 years. And he bound him 1,000 years. Till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that, he must be loosed a little season. Turns out his little season is 22 years. Mathematically, because of the way the Jubilees are, at the end of the 1,000 years, to make a Jubilee, I think personally that a rapture or a gathering can only happen in a Jubilee year. We are in a Jubilee year. I think the rapture is going to occur, and I also think that the great multitude by seal 6 will have to occur by March 17th of 2026, or March 16th, marking the end of the Jubilee cycle. I think that all of that has to happen with them that amount of time, because I think a rapture and a gathering of the tribulation saints can only happen during a Jubilee. There are 2 Jubilees. They're running in tandem. One from when Adam was created, 7 years later, one from when Adam sinned. The next Jubilee, ironically, this Jubilee ends in 2025. The Jubilee where Adam sinned ends in 2032. It's mathematically sound. And the fact that Adam was in the garden for 7 years and 45 days, which is the second month and 17th day, or 47 days, sorry, 7 years and 47 days, and he sinned. Then 45 days later, after Hanukkah, Adam is removed from the garden on the fourth month, the first day, when the timeline was not reversed like it was in Exodus 12. So here we are, 22 years, and I saw thrones, and they that sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them, and I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Jesus and for the word of God, and which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands, and they lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. Well, I have a problem because I'm saying that that the dead, not only the bride rises, but also the dead. We have always thought that you have this lifetime to figure out who Jesus is, or are you going to hell? What about the guy that's on a desert, or in some tribe on an island, has never heard of Jesus whatsoever? But it says in the Bible, every single soul on earth will be preached to about Jesus. Every single soul. We've attempted to do that, but we have failed miserably. We have not told everyone on planet Earth about Jesus. It has not happened. How does that happen? What's the prerequisite to being a tribulation saint? You have to deny Jesus to his face. That is the prerequisite. It is not that you lived a life, accepted Christ, and if you didn't, you're going to the lake of fire. People seem to go against it. Not everybody. There's a lot of people who are going back into the Bible going, wait a minute, now this verse makes sense. It says the earth will give up all its dead. It doesn't say just the bride. It says all its dead, all of them, every single one who's ever died, all of them are going to rise. That's what the Bible says. They're finding these verses all over the place saying this makes the most sense. Who are these people now? I said that the tribulation saints and the bride have to go into Jubilee year, meaning they have to go by March. But the mark of the beast is not coming out for 3.5 years. There's a disconnect here. How do we get those two together? And the fact of the matter is that the Gentiles who are left, there are no more Gentiles going to heaven. Somebody sent me a comment saying they think that perhaps some Gentiles will go into the millennium, the ones who didn't receive the mark. I can't argue against that because I can't see anything that says that's not possible. I had always been taught, and of course I'm always ready to learn, that the only ones going into the millennium and to propagate the human race, to continue on with the human race, will be the Jews, not the Gentiles. But again, that's an old teaching, and my mind's always open for something new. I'd like an answer to that myself. And I saw thrones, and they that sat upon them, and judgment was given. And when I read this, I read of a group of people who were offered the mark of the beast, but they refused. This verse is talking about the 144,000. This verse is talking about the Jews, and the 144,000 are hard at work in Israel with all those people who have died all those years over there, telling them, don't receive the mark, because the mark can only be offered to whatever group of people is Gentile and Jew, who is walking around after the 3.5 year mark. I still believe, and I have for a very long time, that the bride raptured out of here. Poof, in a moment, in a twinkling of an eye, poof, we're gone. The tribulation saint in 2 Thessalonians will be gathered. They will be gathered as they die. They will be taken by angels to heaven, absent from the body, present with the Lord. At some point after the rapture, they saw what happened. Those who rose out of the graves saw the others who rose out of graves, and some of them, poof, disappeared, and some of them stayed behind. And they will know what happened. And those who are alive and remain in the cities see all these living people, poof, disappearing, and they will know. And I think a lot of them, just like Elisha, will drop straight to their knees, straight to their knees. So who are these people? It has to be the Jews. It has to be this group of people, and they are not going to heaven. Except for who? The 144,000 virgin Jewish males, because we see them arrive in heaven. They're celebrated. They sing a song that no one anywhere ever can duplicate, can sing with them. Apparently, it is a beautiful song that they are able to sing that no one else can sing. They are elevated. They've accepted Christ. They are elevated, and I still think it's still think it's the children that Herod killed. We can debate, or not debate, but we can discuss that. But this 104, these are the 144,000 because they appear in heaven. Who else appears in heaven? The bride, poof, gone. The tribulation saint gathered up in heaven, seal six. Who else appears there? The 144,000. When do they appear? Well, they have to appear after warning people not to take the mark of the beast. The mark of the beast comes out after 3.5 years. So we go forward. This guy, I didn't want to put his last name on here. He says, I found a book where he talks about Judas coming, but see, this is not a new concept. That's what's getting me about the naysayers. And honestly, most of you aren't naysayer. Most of you are actually going to the Bible going, oh, now this passage makes sense. They're all rising. I found a book where he where he talks about Judas coming back as the Antichrist, written in 1919. This is over 106 years ago by Clarence Larkin, called The Book of Revelation. I took pictures of the pages that talk about it and the cover of the book, and I thank him for that. I said, nice, thank you. He is the son of perdition, Judas Iscariot. The son of perdition is written twice in the Bible, one in reference to Judas Iscariot, one in reference to the Antichrist. It's the same person. Judas, the reason you can never figure out who you've been breaking your brains trying to figure out who this person is, the reason you can't is because he's still dead. As soon as the rapture occurs, Judas Iscariot is coming back to life, along with everyone else. The entire earth will give up its dead, just like the Bible says. And he will rise and he will go in and they'll know who he is. He'll say, I'm Judas Iscariot. And don't believe on Jesus. And he's gonna rail against God. I said, who else can it be? And how could it be unless many rise at the same time as the bride? That's a new revelation that I saw. I took pictures of the pages. I don't want to read them, but here's the book. Again, written in 1919 by Clarence Larkin. If you were so inclined to look this up online, you could read it for yourself. And if I remember, there's quite a few pages to it. And so you were so inclined. Glass Darkly Ministries, Lisa. And you guys know that I never ask for anything, but people continue to send me emails and private messages. Look, this is how we do our part. You make videos. How we do our part is we donate money. We have the ability to do so. And I say, well, that's great, but I won't accept a dime. However, I will put out somebody who needs help, who's in need of help. This is Glass Darkly Ministries. Her name is Lisa, and she is going for back surgery. And so if you had the ability to help her, she doesn't need much money at all. This is her GoFundMe. Her name, again, is Lisa, Glass Darkly Ministries. She's been on, everybody should know her. She has her YouTube channel. She's done a lot of work. She's had to stop recently doing what she's doing because of her back surgery that she needs. I don't know how to, I've never done a GoFundMe or posted one. So Lisa, I apologize. This is her GoFundMe. If you could find it, I don't even know how to find one of these because I've never used these things, but she does need help. And if you were ever inclined, say, and I've gotten, again, quite a few emails and comments, this is how we help. And we want to donate money to you. And I says, well, I can't. I refuse to take a dime just on principle of who I am. Because I feel like it clouds what we do, and I don't want that interfering in anything I do. But this is a person, if you want to help, if you were inclined to, if that's something within your ability to do so, go to her GoFundMe. And I guess it's a brand new one because she's only raised $25. And go help her out. Back surgery is kind of a big deal. I don't know if any of you I had sciatica for a couple of years. It turns out it was the way I was sleeping, and it took a couple of years for that pain to go away. It was unbearable. I don't know if any of you ever had a sore back or anything, but she actually needs surgery, so it's more than sciatica. And I don't know how she's tolerating that pain. Honestly, I don't know. So if you again were inclined to help her, I took a new picture of that. Let's see here. I just wanted to show you that after Jesus, in fact, was beginning his ministry on the Day of Atonement. 3 days later, he turned, this is his very first miracle. 3 days later, he turned water to wine. And then 2 days later was his birthday. Now, this is John 2. Talks about this entire scenario in John 2. Here we are still in John 2. I continue it down here. After this, he went after what? How much time passed from the time he turned water to wine to the time Passover was at hand? Actually, 6 months. Ironically, it's right at 6 months from when he turned water to wine, excuse me, to when the Passover was at hand. So wherever he was during this wedding, he stayed there for 6 months. And then after this, he went down to Capernaum, he and his mother and his brethren and his disciples, and they continued there not many days. I wrote 6 months here because I couldn't write it up here, but 6 months actually goes up here. And the Jews' Passover was at hand. Okay? But then look at this. He says, Jesus answered and said unto them, destroy this temple. Now we're 6 months into Jesus' ministry. He has 3 more years to go. Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will rise it up. Then said the Jews, 46 years was this temple in building. It says it right there. I never saw this before. Somebody sent this to me. Thank you very much. What does this prove? This proves that Jesus' baptism was in 26 AD. Why? Because they began building this temple in 20 BC. By 26 AD, 46 years later, it winds up that the temple was completed. When was the temple completed? It was completed, it looks like, back on 6 months earlier on Tabernacles. What year is it? 40 and 6 years, year 26. But we know that the calendars are off by a year because of that 0 year. This is the Jubilee year. This temple was completed in the Jubilee year. As a matter of fact, if I remember, there was something about this temple that was held up for 17 years until it was finally built and completed in the year 26 AD. From what we know and what we understand, actually 25 AD. It was completed in the Jubilee year. That's the end of the Jubilee. 2,000 years later, we wind up in 2025. All right. Herod the Great began the rebuilding of the Second Temple in Jerusalem in 20 BC. The construction project was a massive undertaking involving the expansion of the Temple Mount and the rebuilding of the temple itself with white stone. While Herod initiated the rebuilding, the project continued for 46 years. What year was Jesus baptized? He was baptized in 26 AD. He was not baptized in 29 AD. It had to be 26 because he's speaking to this. He's speaking about this right after 6 months after he's turned water to wine. 2 days later, it's his birthday. It is 6 months later, and it is 26 AD. They know that it took 46 years for this temple to be built. So, boom, there you go. Jesus was baptized in 26 AD. Jesus went to the cross in 30 AD. Okay? Thou shalt number. Now, I keep showing this because I keep seeing people. It's a little bit frustrating, but not too much. But they keep counting the Jubilee one directly from the other. They're counting 50 days, but they're going against Levitical law. You can't, if the Jubilee, I'm sorry, if the how do you call it? What do you call that? If the Pentecost event, if the Pentecost event lands on a Sunday, the Bible is so clear, absolutely abundantly clear, that you must count by the Sabbaths from the next Sabbath that comes up. So if the Pentecost all land on Sunday, which I think everyone agrees, Jesus rose on a Sunday. I think everyone agrees that 8 days later, he saw Thomas in the upper room. I don't think anybody argues that. And if you count from the Sabbath after, you will wind up with 57 days because you're on Sunday, you count to Saturday, you count down 49 days, and then you go over one day, even unto the next day, and it's Sunday again. That's what the Bible says. And yet somehow we ignore it and attempt to account it 50 days directly from whatever event. So if you have the Feast of New Wine, let's say, and you count 50 days, you will be off by a week. Your timeline won't work. You have to count from the Sabbath. Let's see here. Let me see if I can do this. And where's it at? Here. That's why I skipped this, and now we're back on it. Okay. All right. The Pentecost. Jesus, whoops, wrong one. Pentecost. Jesus rises. It is a Sunday. Everybody knows it's the first day. If you say, well, the Sabbath changes there, it doesn't change. It never, these are your Sabbaths right here. March 19th, March 26th, April 2nd, April 9th, April 16th. Those are your Sabbaths. That's it. They don't move. They're always on that day. They never change. 364 days. And then we have to account for the extra day at the end of the year in March. But that's how you do it. And that is a stellar year. That's how many times the planet actually spins as it goes around the sun every single year, 364 times. But to keep solar noon, it ticks forward 4 more minutes, 4 minutes, 4 minutes, 4 minutes, 4 minutes every single day until it adds up to a day and a quarter every single year. So we come down here. And remember, this kind of baffled me because I said, Pentecost is here. This is the Feast of New Wine. Why is the Dead Sea Scrolls calling the Feast of New Wine on Av the 3rd? And it dawns on me. These arrows mean it happened at sunset. Whenever you see a discrepancy like that, when your time is off by one day, inevitably what I find is that it is because it happened at sunset on that day. They weren't going to drink new wine on the Pentecost. This is a holy day. Pentecost is a holy day. But at sunset became new wine. They didn't wait until the next day to be, well, it's 6 o'clock. Let's go to bed. And then tomorrow when we wake up, we can't start drinking at noon because that before noon, that's not right. So we'll start drinking at 3 o'clock. Well, the day is well spent by the time you get to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You only get to drink on the Feast of New Wine. No, Feast of New Wine began here at sunset on Pentecost. That's why they said Av the 3rd. Now, what does Leviticus say? How must we count? We must count from the Sabbath after. Feast of New Wine is on a Sunday. Pentecost always lands on a Sunday. At sunset is when Feast of New Wine begins. We have to go all the way around and start our count here. This is where our count starts. This is the Sabbath. These are always the Sabbaths. From now until eternity, Saturday will always be on, where did it go? Did I go too far? Yeah, I went too far. July 23rd. July 23rd will always be the Sabbath. Always. You'll start your count here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Because the Bible tells us we will count by the Sabbaths, even unto the next day, Sunday. When do you start counting your next 50 days? Well, you got to get to Saturday. You don't get to back up a day. You got to go forward to the Sabbath and begin counting again. When is the Feast of New Wine? Sunset, Pentecost, the 2nd of Av, becoming the 3rd of Av. Count it out from Saturday. I don't care if the Feast of New Wine was here, or even back here. The Sabbath after will always start here. That's the Sabbath. And you count the 7 weeks, 49 days, even unto the next day. The Feast of Oil is going to be on Elul 28, September the 11th. You're going to hear that the Feast of Oil is on Elul 22. And the reason you're going to look at that, 7 days, you know why you're going to see that? Because people reading the Dead Sea Scrolls will come out and tell you, well, the Dead Sea Scrolls says it's on Elul 22. No, the Dead Sea Scrolls say that the Feast of New Wine is on Av 3. It does not say that it's on Elul 22. Not that I can find. If anybody can find that, find it. But it doesn't say. What it does say is 50 days after the Feast of New Wine is the Feast of Oil. But what they don't do is pay attention to what Leviticus clearly says, and that is you will count from the Sabbath after, right here. And when you do, the Feast of Oil is going to land on Elul 28, which is September the 11th. September the 11th, 911. the day the towers came down, the first day of creation. The first day of creation is Elul 28. There is no other date it could possibly be, and I'll show you why. Because trumpets, Tishri 1, must land on September the 15th, because the new year must begin on a solid date that never changes on March 17th. If you attribute the how do you call the head of the year to the equinox, you got to go 2, sometimes 3. It's never solid. It always moves around. I don't like dates that moves around. I like a timeline that's solid. I don't believe in God changing his mind every year, and you have to build a new. I don't have to ever build this timeline solid. That's it. It's done. It doesn't ever have to be rebuilt. These are the events of when they happen. And like I said before, I did not like the way the Pentecost landed. I did not like it. I put it on there. I counted the 57 days, like I said, from the Sabbath after, but it made no sense to me. It had to be after a wave sheaf offering. Well, turns out Jesus did 4 of them. And then it brings you, after that, it brings you the Feast of New Wine. And then in the book of Enoch, it talks about 50 days later, which you count from the Sabbath after, and you wind up here on the first day of creation, new oil. So 182 days, or this is a 183rd day. There's 2 segments of 6 months of 182 days, totaling 364. And you can't get that if you change this by 2 days. You wind up with over here on Tishri 3 as being the Feast of Trumpets. It won't work. Mathematically, it won't work. It just will not work. Elul 28 was the first day of creation. Jesus was not born on September the 11th. Jesus was not born on the 5th day of creation, the first day of time. He created time on Wednesday over here. The 4th day, he creates the sun, moon, and stars. He creates time. Over here is the first day of time. He was not born, he was not born on Tishri 1. He was born on Tabernacles, Tishri 15. September the 29th, got that arrow on there because it happened after sunset, pretty close to sunset, meaning honestly, mathematically, from what I can see, it would be 15 or September 29th at sunset is what I would see. So the Feast of Oil is on September the 11th. Jesus was baptized on August the 15th, Elul 1. Elul 1 starts a 40-day fast for Jesus, which he completes here at the Revelation 12 sign. That's why we have that sign. That sign right there started all of us into searching out this stuff very intently, trying to figure out the correct mathematical equation to get to the day of the rapture. The problem was we never knew, we still don't know which one of these events will trigger the rapture. However, I showed you August 15th is the 1,335 days to Apophis. Where's that at? Right here. Exclusive. But it does take you to Apophis. 1,335 days, August 15th. It takes you 1,300. You got the 30, the 45, added to the 1260. 1,335 days, August 15th. That's why that day is such a high watch day for me. And it's just something for us to look at. To me, the Day of Atonement is the day that the Antichrist reveals himself. The day of Jesus's birthday would seem to me to be a good day for the tribulation saints in Seal 6, or October the 31st. To me, looks like would be when the trumpets would begin to go and things get really bad at that point. But the tribulation, make no mistake, the tribulation begins with the first seal. That is tribulation. All right, where was I? Let's see down here. Let me go back to this real quick to make sure I covered everything, or I have to wind up coming back here. So again, I'm looking at August 15th, which August 15th, 16th, because it could be the 16th minus these 10 hours, or it could be the 15th plus these 10 hours. I never know exactly where it lands, but that's 20 hours, which means somewhere in here, there's a phantom 4 hours Uh, I don't know how to apply that. I just know that somewhere around in here, I believe some event will take place. What's today? This is the 14th. So yeah, we're looking at tomorrow or the next day, something major happening. Maybe the rapture. If the rapture should wait until here, September the 11th, or the completion, the absolute completion of 123 Jubilee cycles, exactly to the day, would be day 6 when Adam was created on September the 16th. That would be the absolute completion of the 123 Jubilee cycles and from his creation. And then 123 Jubilee cycles from when he sinned and was kicked out of the garden, but this would represent man. It would be, again, 123 Jubilee cycles, which would end in 2032. Now, let me see, where was I? Was it down here? No, let me go before that. It wasn't quite that far yet. Okay. Does that seem right? No, I still got some more stuff. Yeah, 26 AD. Because of this verse right here, we now know that Jesus, in fact, was baptized in 26 AD. Fact, can't deny it. And it's actually 25 AD, and it's actually exactly 2,000 years. Okay, but that's after the how do you call it, his baptism. Still 3.5 years later, we're still looking at after 2,000 years and in the third year. So 49 years thou shalt cause the trumpet. So I wanted to point this out. Why do I say that that the horn is blasted in the 49th year and not the 50th year? Because of what it says right here in Leviticus 25, the year of the Jubilee. It says, 7 times 7 years, and the space of 7 Sabbaths of years shall be unto thee 49 years. Then thou shalt cause the trumpet of the Jubilee to sound on the 10th day of the 7th month. In the day of atonement shall make the trumpet sound throughout your land. And 5 months and 20 days later, you're sounding it now. You're not sounding it in the Jubilee year. You're sounding it 5 months and 20 days before the Jubilee year begins. And you shall hallow the 50th year. We're in the 49th year right here. This is the 10th day of the 7th month, the day of atonement. This is the Revelation 12 sign. This is the day Jesus began his ministry. This is 40 days after he was baptized and tempted and fasted and tempted by the devil. So that's why I say people are trying to attribute this to being when the year started. It is not. They're simply heralding in the 50th year, which will start in 5 months and 20 days. God changed the head of the year in Exodus 12, and that's the end of it. He moved it, and that's what he did. That's the end of it. On this day, the prophet, I started Googling out the 40 days. Let's see here. What is this? Oh, Elul 1. Elul 1, that's the day Jesus was baptized. That's the day he began his fasting. On this day, the prophet Haggai received a divine message to pass to Zerubbabel, son of Shealtiel, ruler of Judah, and Joshua, son of Jehozadak, the high priest, instructing them to continue their efforts to build the second temple, whose construction had been halted some 17 years prior. Jesus is our temple. We will be changed to be like Jesus. We are the temple. Now there is going to be an earthly temple built. A lot of people say, no, we're the temple. We don't need the earthly temple is going to be built. Otherwise, if it's not, the antichrist can't go inside of there and proclaim himself to be God halfway through. So yes, it will be built. Is this the rapture day on Elul 1, August the 15th, 16th? Is this when the temple of our bodies will be changed and taken to heaven in a rapture? I don't know. I continue searching out this type of this idea, And in the second year of Darius the king, in the 6th month and first day, that's a little one. That is August the 15th, coming up here tomorrow, and the 16th, the next day, came the word of the Lord by Haggai and the prophet Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, governor of Judah. This people, what people? The time is not come. This is the tribulation saint. They don't believe in a rapture. They don't believe that event is ever going to take place. They've given up on it. This people say the time is not come. The time that the Lord's house should be built. They are saying that the rapture is not a real thing, that we're already, I mean, you've got all kinds of bizarre concepts out there negating the fact that the rapture is a real thing. Then came the word of the Lord by Haggai the prophet, saying, it is time for you, O ye, to dwell in your sealed houses, and in this house lie waste. Now, therefore, thus saith the Lord of hosts, consider your ways. He's talking to the tribulation saints. The tribulation has begun. When did it begin? It began when they mocked the date of the rapture. This people say it is not time. It is time not, the time is not come. It happens on the 6th month and first day, a little one. This happens on August 15, 16. Consider your ways. These people are sinners. Again, he says, consider your ways. Turn to Jesus. You people who are in the tribulation, now is the time to drop to your knees like Elisha did after he saw Elisha go. He dropped to his knees, tore off his own worldly possession. Yeah. Don't tell me. I know. Okay. Yeah. Okay. There's a rapture. Sure. Still in the church, still following, but does not. And I know people are saying in their heads, well, just because you don't believe in the rapture doesn't mean you won't be raptured. Because if you give your life to Jesus, you are correct about that. But very few who have given their life to Jesus, who are indwelled by the Holy Spirit, are not looking for the rapture to occur. Very few. Most people who have heard of the rapture, not everyone, but most people are watching and waiting for this event. And what they're not doing, they're not mocking and saying there is no rapture. That's not what the people who are saved are not doing that, because they would literally have too much fear inside of themselves to make such a bold statement when the Bible clearly talks about it. So me sitting here telling you who's saved and who isn't, I'm not doing that, because nope, not getting in the middle of that one. I would never tell you who is saved and who is not saved. That is not my place. None of my business. That's all of the business of God himself. Let me give you some examples of these 40 days. These 40 days are a trial. These 40 days are tribulation. I have a feeling that the rapture might occur. This is my idea, not thus saith the Lord, but my idea is that the rapture will occur on August 15, 16, 40 days later on the Day of Atonement, the date of the Revelation 12 sign, the tribulation saints will go. And that's why that date, because that completes the body. That completes all of us. Don't think we're going to shut ourselves in a room. It doesn't tell us we're shut in there for 7 years. It tells us shut in there for just a little while. It could be 40 days that we're shut in there. It could be 40 days that we're shut in there. And then we know we're not shut in there when the 6th seal is open, because we're standing right there. We're asking John, who are these people? He says, I don't know. You know, you're an elder. You're from here. We got some time under our belt. We've already been there 40 days. We're elders. So, and then the tribulation saints show up. Do they show up on September the 24th? Is that why that date has become so popular? And don't think for 1 second that Jesus is just looking forward to his bride and then all these other people will show up. No, they're going to heaven. They're getting eternal bodies. Yeah, they have to wash their robes white during the tribulation, but they are going to heaven. That you don't get to go to heaven unless you're covered by the blood of Christ. These people are super important. They complete the body. We are elders. We'll rule and reign with Christ, but these people will be servants, true, but they're going to be so ecstatic to be there. I mean, servant, lake of fire. And there's going to be people that make that choice. There's literally going to be people that stand there and say, no, I don't want Jesus. Nope, I think I'll stay here and, go to the lake of fire. I have no idea who these people are. The 12 spies sent out by Moses, 10 of them were scared out of their wits the entire time. Two of them, Caleb and Joshua, were not. They brought back a good report. They were the only two that got to cross anyone that was 20 years or older that got to cross over into the promised land after 40 years. 40 is a time of testing. 40 years they wandered the desert. 40 days they spent in Canaan exploring the land, and they came back. 10 of them were scared out of their wits and convinced the rest of them, we don't want to do this, man. Two of them were like, no, we got this. God's on our side. We got that. God leading us by a cloud. We got this. And the other 10 convinced the entire tribe, nope, 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 we're not going. That's dangerous. Those 40 days are a trial. Same thing with Jesus. After his baptism, Jesus fasted for 40 days and 40 nights in the wilderness. This period of fasting is just described in the Gospels of Matthew and Luke, not described in the book of Mark for some reason, where it is also highlighted that Jesus was tempted by the devil during this time. And in Matthew 4:2, it states, after fasting 40 days and 40 nights, he was hungry. That's when the devil shows up, when you are at your most weakest. Luke 4:2 also mentions that Jesus ate nothing during those days, and at the end of them, he was hungry. This period of fasting is often referred to as the temptation of Christ. Those 40 days, were they spectacular? No, they were a trial. Jesus, of course, passed with flying colors. Of course he did. The biblical story of Noah's Ark, it rained for 40 days and 40 nights. Noah was not a bride or an elder. Noah was a tribulation saint. He was protected, but he was going through the tribulation. And while it was raining and lightning and everything else, it must have been a very fearful time in that ark. At the end of 40 days, it's almost comical how God says, oh, and I remembered Noah and I shut the rain up. Wait a minute. You might have forgot about the guy? No, he just said that, he says that for the benefit of those who would humanize God, I suppose. But no, he didn't forget about Noah, but 40 days and 40 nights of testing or judgment, and everyone is dead on the face of the earth except for 8 souls that are inside of that boat. In the Bible, the number 40 often signifies a period of testing, trial, probation, or transition, often associated with difficulty and uncertainty. It can represent a time of spiritual growth, repentance, or preparation for a new phase. We, the elders, those that rule and reign with Christ, do not need to go through this 40 days. We don't need to do it. This 40 days begins in a day or two from right now. That's why I'm looking so intently at August the 15th, 16th. And at the end of 40 days, Day of Atonement. It is not the Feast of Trumpets. Mathematically, it just isn't. It can't be. They will all who say that will forsake their timelines, their snippet timelines, instead of putting a whole timeline on an entire year like I have. They will forsake their timelines and they will call October the 31st or November the 11th as the day of the flood. They will all do it. But mathematically, November the 11th does not work from Apophis. God used the Revelation 12 sign to tell us the time is near. And I believe he used Apophis to tell us this. Do your math from this point. I think that's the Amos 3:7. 5737. Oh my goodness, I can't remember. I think that's the event where God has warned us that this event is coming. I'm not sure why I did this. Why did I do this? I did this so you could see September 2025. The Day of Atonement is on the 24th, but the Day of Equal Parts is on the 26th. So what happens is, because this is a solar timeline, they will add that extra day. So it's actually the nightfall of the 24th becoming the 25th. This whole day shouldn't be in here technically, or we should be calling this the 25th because of a stellar day, which tells me that the Day of Atonement is at night on the 24th or the 25th. So we always have that 1 day issue. The Revelation 12 sign happened in Israel at exactly midnight. God made sure to cover not only the Jewish way of counting from sunset, but also the Gentile way of counting from midnight. The moon didn't actually fall under her feet until midnight on 9/23, which means in both cases, Gentile and Jew, it was 9/24, it was not 9/23. In order for it to be 9/23, we'd have to go back 24 hours. But this is exactly midnight. This is the 24th. This is 36 seconds after midnight. The moon has just arrived under her feet right there. So anybody that keeps saying that it happened on the 23rd, I have no idea what you're talking about. It was the 24th. That exactly midnight. That's literally like speaking directly to the Gentile, honestly. The Dead Sea Scrolls reveal a unique 364-day calendar observed by a Jewish sect, including festivals of new wheat, new wine, and new oil. These festivals were extensions of the traditional Jewish Shavuot, new wheat festivals, and new wine occurring 50 days after Shavuot, and new oil another 50 days. They got this from the Dead Sea Scrolls, and it is, while it does say that, and it's true, it does say that 50 days later. The problem is they ignored Leviticus. They ignored Leviticus. When it says in the Dead Sea Scrolls, I haven't found it yet, but it has to state, like it does in Leviticus 25, that you must count from the Sabbath after. So by that technicality, it is 57 days. That's why new oil will land on September the 11th, and new wine landed on, is it July 24th? I don't recall. July 24th, I think. So let me look real quick before I speak out of turn. New wine, sorry, July 17th at sunset, July 18th. That's when new wine happened. And new oil on the first day of creation, the low 28th, September the 11th. All right. Now, the Pentecost. This is the one that I wish I'd talked. I talked to you about the Jubilees, but this is the one that I wanted to talk to you about. And ye shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath, meaning whatever day you are on after the Sabbath, you go to the Sabbath, because you have to count from the day that you brought the wave sheaf offering. The wave sheaf offering is brought on Sunday. 7 Sabbaths, you shall count by Sabbaths. You're counting from the next Sabbath. It's Sunday, you get to the Sabbath, 7 days, you count 50 days. 7 Sabbaths shall be complete, even unto the morrow. After the 7th Sabbath, you shall number 50 days, and you shall offer a new meat offering unto the Lord. So, it is not that the Dead Sea Scrolls are inaccurate. It's the human interpretation of the Dead Sea Scrolls that they've gotten it wrong. It is not 50 days. It is, according to Levitical law, it is from the Sabbath after, where you count 50 days. That's where you begin your count. That's why I mirror the Dead Sea Scrolls on wine, but humans have counted 50 days after wine, and they've landed on, I believe it was a low 22, 7 days off, because they did not abide by Leviticus and count from the Sabbath. All right, so I got into all that for you. I wanted to show you the timeline. You can get the timeline. Sister Sandy has done several timelines for a lot of us. She's done it for David the Watchman, Brett from God's Land Down Under, Revelation Watchman 777, I believe. He's got all kinds of timelines, really cool stuff. And then me. And you can get that at End Time. Let me look at the bottom here, because I don't want to misspeak it. www.endtime-studies.com, and you can go in there for free and download it, and you can see if you were inclined to say, well, I want to do something special on the Sabbath, not for salvation, I just want to, abide by one of the 10 commandments, or say, find the Sabbath and keep it holy. It's not Saturday. and it doesn't change. It never ever changes. It always stays on the same days every single year. No change. Sabbath. Let's see, what Sabbaths are we coming up to? Uh, you wanna, let's see, this is August the 14th. Yesterday was the Sabbath. August the 20th is a Sabbath. August the 27th is a Sabbath. September the 3rd is a Sabbath. September the 10th is a Sabbath. The seventh day of creation, where God rested, is a Sabbath. You can't change. It interlocks so tight. You can't change a single day, or you're going to wind up with something wrong somewhere. And there, I cannot find anything wrong. And people send me that, it took 46 years to build it. I can't believe I didn't find that before, by the way. It's 26 AD when Jesus was baptized. I've been saying that, been defending that. And then that verse somebody sends to me, I'm like, I could have found that, 6 months ago or a year ago. That would have been nice. But so your Sabbaths, those are your Sabbaths. If you were so inclined to do something special on that day, do it. Not for salvation, not to put yourself under the law, just to recognize God, you're incredible. I know this day is the Sabbath, and I just want to do something special to thank you for what you've done. And there is nothing wrong with abiding by a law of God to thank him for what he's done. And by the way, if you have the Holy Spirit, the law will be written on your heart. And there are things that you used to do that you just no longer have a desire to do. You just won't want to. So here's to watching some huge event happening tomorrow or the next day. Keep looking up. This is my timeline. I think it's accurate, but I'm not going to tell you somebody else's isn't. I think that's wrong. We'll just keep watching. We passed new wine. We passed that some time ago. Where did we pass new wine at? We passed that back on July 17th. New oil will be coming up on September 11th. We have the timeline shows August 15th, 16th for the day Jesus began or got baptized. And then I show Enoch rises on Elul 6. So 5 days after that, on August the 20th, is another high watch date. And so I might come back out here, and if we see nothing happen, which I've called out hundreds of dates, and sometimes something happens, sometimes nothing happens. But it's because we just have to keep hoping and dreaming, and that's just another day for you to hope and dream in. And somebody again sent me something about, well, now that Dr. Barry is wrong, and I said he wasn't wrong. We can't do that. Dr. Barry was not wrong. Dr. Barry has brought me so many of these dates that I have on here. I just put them on a timeline. Dr. Barry was right. It was another stepping stone to the other side. On the other side is heaven. We're just going across. You can't skip a step. God is taking us down a highway. We're on our way somewhere. Mile marker this, mile marker this, mile marker this. And we keep going. Do we say, well, that mile marker didn't mean anything? No, you lived that mile marker. That mile marker meant as much as the first mile marker, the middle mile marker, and the last mile marker. Each mile marker had to be passed. And so, yes, it's very important that we watch everyone, Revelation Watchman 7:7, everyone's math, everyone's work. It is to their heart. It is something that they really are intently watching, and I watch with them and hope and pray that the rapture will occur on anyone's timeline. I hope and pray that that is accurate. So, all right, let me get off of here. I don't know how long I've gone on. I usually go on too long. But let me get off here. Go to a quiet place by yourself. Nobody needs to know, and you don't need to tell anybody except the Lord into your heart. What does that mean? That means that you surrender. You take that cup and drink from it. God is offering you a free gift. It is a absolute free gift. And all you have to do is reach out, take that cup, and drink from it. It's that simple. You can't do anything to gain salvation. You can't do anything to seal it up. You can't do anything to get more of it. You can't lose it. Once you drink from that cup, it's in you. That's it. It's over with. But the plan was that he wanted a people in heaven. He wanted a people in heaven that chose to be there. He wanted a people in heaven that wanted to be there. He wanted a people in heaven that blindly chose him. He's going to wind up with, there's only one group that will not see Jesus to make that choice. They saw Jesus in Hades when he went there with his witness. Paradise was located in Hades. They saw him. Everyone who had died for the 4,000 years, they saw him. They had made a clear choice. The last 2,000 years, we have not physically seen him. We've heard all the stories. We've done all the math. We've done all the studies. We're amazed at how the numbers in the Bible line up. Amazed at what this story means and that story means. Oh, look at this. It crosses over to that and all these different things. But we have not seen. And we're going to heaven. We're going to see him for the first time in person in heaven. These people here will see the rapture occur. A warning has been told to the entire planet that this event is going to take place. They will have seen that event. They will, and people argue with me, but I don't see how. Jesus is in the clouds. We're meeting him in the clouds. They are not going to see him up there. They're going to see him. They're going to see him. They are Thomas. They will see, and then they will believe. They will see, and then they will believe. You understand? I've got a secret broadcast cave mosquito. I don't want to get SARS or whatever you get from them things. So they will see. My personal opinion is it is a prerequisite. Aside from the bride, the elders, we don't need to see. We're in. We're all in. Hook, line, and sinker. We're in. But they will need to see. Thomas said, unless I see it for myself, I will not believe. They will see, and they will believe, and they will be counted as a tribulation saint. Remember, how long did it take for Thomas to wind up seeing? 7 days later, the 8th day, exactly 1 week on Sunday, he saw and he put his fingers into the holes. That's when he believed. So we'll see. We shall see what happens. But keep your hopes up. Keep looking. We're almost there. Chris over at Global Rapture Watchers just comes up with stuff nonstop, right and left, watching all of the earthquakes. They're just lighting up everywhere. They're just lighting up. The earth is beginning to travail, to cast up its dead. So, all right, we will chat with you again later.